welcome back to my channel. My name is Alicia and thank you so much for being here. In today's reading vlog, we are reading Starling House by Alex E. Harrow. I have never read a book from this author before, but I found this book at the foreign language bookstore in Tokyo and it seems interesting, but the premise is sort of all over the place. This book has over 96,000 reviews across Amazon and Goodreads, and it was a Reese's book club pick, and it's got between a 3.8 and a 4.2 star rating, so kind of in the middle. We'll see how I feel about it. I feel like I can get this done maybe in a couple of days. It's 312 pages and this came out in October of 2023. Also, happy August 2024. We are nearing the end of August. This might be my last book that I read this month. We shall see. My husband is officially home. He's no longer deployed, but he is working the overnight shift right now. And as soon as that's done, he's taking leave. And so I will not be back here for a little bit, maybe until the middle of September. So let's just get into this book and see what we think. It says right here, I dream sometimes about a house I've never seen. I should be scared, but in the dream, I don't hesitate. And in my dream, I'm home. I don't know if this is sort of a haunted house mystery book. The top 3 genres on Amazon say contemporary fantasy, magical realism, which I love magical realism, and then dark fantasy horror. I'm sorry, dark and horror are not the two that I like, but I can't wait to get into this. This is about a woman named Opal who lives in Eden, Kentucky. She has a brother named Jasper, and for some reason, she's trying to help Jasper escape the town. I don't understand why. I don't know why he needs to escape. In this town, there is a house called Starling House, and it was formerly owned by an author who wrote some book called The Underland, and Opal is obsessed with this book. And this book came out over 100 years ago, and Opal has been obsessed with it since she was a small child. I might just need to read a little bit of the back to y'all because I just don't understand this premise. I don't know what is happening with Opal and Jasper, and then there's the heir to this Starling house. His name is Arthur. It says Opal is a lot of things. She's an orphan, a high school dropout, a part-time cashier, and a full-time cynic. Okay, if Opal is an orphan, is her brother Jasper also an orphan, or is he a step sibling or a half sibling? Above all, she's determined to find a better life for her brother, one that gets them out of Eden, Kentucky. So, do you want Jasper to escape or both of you? It says one that gets them out. This premise, I'm so sorry. I know this is taking so long to get into. I just don't understand what this book is about. The town that they live in is known for 2 things. It's known for bad luck and for E. Starling. E. Starling is the author, that reclusive 19th century author of The Underland, and this author disappeared over 100 years ago. All this author left behind were dark rumors and her home. Everyone agrees that it's best to ignore this uncanny mansion and its misanthropic heir, Arthur. Almost everyone, anyway. Opal has been obsessed with the Underland since she was a child, and when she gets the chance to step inside Starling House and make some cash for her brother's escape fund, she can't resist. Why does Jasper need to escape? And are you going with him? But sinister forces are digging deeper into the buried secrets of Starling House, and Arthur's own nightmares have become far too real, as Eden, Kentucky itself seems to be drowning in its own ghosts. Opal realizes she might finally have found a reason to stick around. That makes no sense. That last sentence makes no sense. Let's just get into this and see, because I don't understand. And the very last thing it says is, and now she'll have to fight. Who are you fighting? What is this premise? I'm sorry, what is this premise? We have already found out in the first couple of sentences that Opal is going to be an unreliable narrator. She's telling us about someone named Logan who ding-dong ditched the Starling house, and then she says, but he's an even bigger liar than me. Opal started having these weird dreams about Starling House when she was 12 or 13 years old. I don't know how old she is right now. We know she's a high school dropout, so she's maybe 17 or 18 at least. But she's been having these dreams since she was an early teenager, and she dreams that she's home, that Starling House is her home. And we know she's an orphan, so maybe this really is her home. Maybe this is some foreshadowing. Starling House is cursed. There were some projects going on, but then those were abandoned because there were a series of ugly accidents that left 3 employees hospitalized. Anything I learn about this house going forward, I'm going to need to be skeptical of, because we already know Opal is an unreliable narrator. And then right here she says, since nobody would tell me the story of Starling House, I made up my own. And then in the next paragraph she says, I spent a lot of weekends sitting cross-legged on the motel mattress with my little brother, making up haunted house stories. I would like to add, for anyone that wants to read this book on Kindle, it's not available on Kindle Unlimited that I know of, but if you decide to purchase it on Kindle, there are a lot of footnotes. And I know that is really hard to do when you're reading it on Kindle because you have to keep clicking on them, and Kindle has a little bit of a lag. So just throwing it out there for anyone that wants to read it on an e-reader, there are tons of footnotes. Opal is so unlikable. She's reminding me a lot of Addie from The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, with the fact that they both steal in order to get by in life. Opal is 26 years old and still trying to figure it out. She works part-time at Tractor Supply. She's stealing from the cash register. She doesn't have a car, and her brother Jasper still live in a motel. And yes, he is her brother. They are both orphans. We really have no idea if we can trust Opal. Everything she tells us is potentially a lie, because then when you read the footnote, you don't know. That's where you realize, oh, was she lying about that? Right here with this body that was never found of a little boy. In the footnote, it just says Willie was 13 years old when he did go missing. So he is missing. But then it says, perhaps she merely dreamt of it and mistook the dream for a memory. I'm still in the beginning of this book, but if you have any sort of trigger warnings towards suicidal ideation, which maybe that's what you would call this, I just need to throw it out there. I don't know if that's going to continue throughout the book, but right here she just says to us, suicide is a folded hand and I'm no quitter. And then on the next page she tells us that she's just too tired to commit suicide. We have an illustration here. I'm guessing this is Opal running through the woods away from Starling House. However, it looks like a wolf and some birds are chasing her. No one was chasing her in the book. Remember, she's an unreliable narrator. She did run into Arthur. He was behind the gate. She was in front of it because she was passing through. And she doesn't even know his name is Arthur. Everyone in that town calls him Alfred or Alistair. He's the last remaining of the Starling group of people. Arthur has this whole mansion to himself, yet he sleeps in the attic. I am so confused. I don't understand what is happening. Opal keeps dreaming about Starling House. It's as if it's her home. She's very comfortable in her dreams, but in real life, it terrifies her. It's just this neglected, haunted-ish, gothic-y house. And then she just shows back up at the house 6 days after she had run into Arthur that first time, still doesn't even know his name, and he told her to run. So she shows back up and just lies to him and says, I'm taking an architecture class online at the local community college. Can I take some photos of your house? And he just says no. And then he says, but I could offer you a job. What? I'm so confused. And then in Arthur's point of view, he thinks that he owes Opal. Why? And then Arthur he's been having some dreams. I'm so confused right now. I don't understand what is going on. Does Arthur have a connection to Opal? Why is he possibly dreaming about her if that's what I read? This writing is very weird. I think I might be dumb because I just do not understand this author's writing. And why is he offering her a job? Why does he owe her anything? And then Opal accepts. The writing in Starling House is reminding me of Writers and Lovers by Lily King. I did not jive with this author's writing whatsoever. I couldn't tell you a single thing that happened in this book. I read this in 2020. I read it 4 years ago, and this is about 330 pages. I have no idea what happened in this book. I mean, with every chapter that I started, I was so confused about what had happened the chapter before. And even halfway through the book, 3/4 of the way through the book, people would get mentioned and I thought, oh, is this a new character? No, that character had been in the book since the beginning, but I just did not, I don't know why. My brain could not comprehend what Lily King was writing. I don't know why. It was so hard to read. And that is what is happening right now with Starling House. Holy cow, y'all. My husband just messaged me. He's at work right now. We have right here in the office at our window some hornets, a hornet's nest, and we kind of thought nothing of it. He just messaged me and said that they're the deadliest insect in the country in Japan. So then I Googled them. Why did I do that? It says that they are called Japanese hornets or murder hornets, and they're responsible for up to 50 fatalities a year in Japan. And if you find them or a nest, you need to contact the state agricultural department immediately. So he's asking me to notify housing. We live on a military base here in Japan. I just didn't know it was that bad. I'll get a better photo or I'll get a better video tomorrow during the day. I don't know if I want to read this book. I haven't even reached the 10% mark. I mean, I'm close. I think I'm a few pages away. I just went into my kitchen and ate. I didn't even bring you with me. I don't know how I feel about this novel. This is my current setup. Hello, Mini Cooper. Welcome to the vlog. Maybe if she just lays on me, I will have no choice but to just sit here and read this book. Exactly. Do you hear her? She wants me to complete this book. I wonder how much we can get read. This made me laugh. He has offered her a job. Arthur has offered Opal a house cleaning job, and she said, what are my hours? And he says, you may arrive anytime after dawn and leave before sunset. And Opal says, what a super normal way of putting that. 2 questions. Is there going to be something, she always gets so scared when I'm filming. Is something going to happen between Arthur and Opal? Just the way they look at each other. He keeps staring at a little ringlet. I think she's got curly red hair and a piece keeps coming out of her hoodie. And he keeps wondering why she doesn't wear a proper coat. She's poor and lives in a motel. Okay, Arthur? But he doesn't know that. And then secondly, is the house sentient? Is this a sentient house story? Is that where the magical realism comes into play? Is it actually haunted? Or is the house just listening to you and doing things to scare you or doing things to help you? There is a boarded up mine shaft that has been mentioned twice now, especially in regards to that kid Willie, the one that went missing. He's been mentioned twice. He was 13. That was the last time he was seen. And now someone at Tractor Supply, one of Opal's coworkers, is saying that her mama told her that there were 2 women that used to live at Starling House, and they were supposedly last seen behind some middle school chasing that 13-year-old kid. And now there are rumors that there are sounds that still come from the mine shaft. Is it so dangerous to unboard it and go check? They are trying to make their motel more home-like. I mean, they've been living there for over a decade. In room 12, that's what it's called. Hi, sweet girl. But they have Christmas lights around their hotel room. And if you've watched any of my vlogs, I mean, I don't know if you can see that, but we have Christmas lights in every room. We put them up maybe middle of December in 2023, and we haven't taken them down, and we keep them lit 24/7. This is finally my 10% check-in. It has taken me so long to get to 10%. I'm reading this book so slowly, and I don't like that. I mean, I'm not a fast reader by any means, but I'm reading this at a snail's pace. My little girl is back on me. All I have to say at the 10% mark is Opal went and looked up the Wikipedia page to the author of Starling House, the author that used to live there and that wrote that creepy children's book, The Underland, that Opal is so obsessed with. And there's no record of Her name is Eleanor Starling. There's no record of her birth. Her first appearance in any sort of historical record was when her engagement was announced to some man, last name Peabody. So we think she was born in 1851. That's all it says for her birthday, 1851. And then she was declared dead at the age of 35. So how long do you need to be missing before you are declared dead? Why do I keep thinking that Opal is related to the Starlings? Even though I also think Opal is gonna get into a romantic relationship with Arthur, who might be related to her. I doubt there's incest in this book, but for some reason, I can't get over the fact that I feel like she's related. There's something going on with Opal in this house, and then that author, there was never any photographs of her, and she never did any interviews, any press, anything that got sent to the Starling House. The author sent it back to the sender unopened, and Opal comes across this photo, and she just knows that it's a picture of the author with that person, John Peabody, whatever his name is, the guy that she was betrothed to marry. He was middle-aged. This author apparently was a girl, so I don't know what that means. Maybe she was in her early 20s. But they're standing there, and she has these bewitching eyes, and there's ink on her hands, and she's kind of standing away from the man. And Opal just knows, she knows that that is a picture of the author, even though it doesn't say it. And then the man in the photo, even though it's a black and white photo, for some reason Opal thinks, oh, he's got gray hair in this photo because it's black and white. But in the real world, his hair is either blonde or red. Red. That's not a common hair color, and Opal's hair is red. They can't be related though, because I think she's gonna get with Arthur. Also, I haven't said Arthur's age. All it said was they're around the same age, and we know Opal's 26. There are some claw marks on the floor when Opal first walks in, and she asks Arthur, oh, do you have a pet? Do you have a dog? And he just says no. And then he gives no explanation as to what those claw marks are on the floor. And then she says, well, don't you ever just have strays randomly turn up? Because at the motel, there's a little calico cat like mine that lives behind the dumpster and just hangs out with Opal every time she's sitting outside just staring up at the stars. But again, she says to Arthur, don't you just have strays that randomly turn up? And he looks her up and down and says, not until recently. And she is so mad at that. I mean, rightfully so. But she then goes and steals a bunch of his spoons. She puts his spoons in her back pocket and thinks, well, if he's gonna call me a stray, might as well have consequences for it. Arthur is 28 years old, and I just need to know what happened to his mother. He had a flashback. It says he's 14. His mother is lying silently on her yellow couch while his father carefully stitches a flap of her scalp back into place. And then the next time he saw his mother, there had been a thistle pushing gently through the socket of her right eye. I believe Opal's little brother Jasper is in the 10th grade in high school, and he's about 16 years old. And I just read about him having a really bad asthma attack. And I went back 7 pages where it was talking about this power company that is essentially the reason why there are so many environmental and economic problems in Eden, Kentucky, where they live. And the owner of the motel, Bev, she was telling Opal that that company, that power company, was talking about expanding and doubling capacity and opening new fields. And then Opal was thinking, well, maybe if they put filters on their smokestacks rather than just paying EPA fines every year, Jasper could actually breathe, and I wouldn't have to clean a haunted house, so I could afford to get him out of here. That is why she is saving up money for his quote-unquote escape fund. It's because he cannot live in that town. He right now was having an asthma attack in his sleep and wasn't waking up from it. And Opal ran into the room and started doing everything that she needed to do, because a few years ago this had happened and she had called the police and told them over the phone, I don't know what to do, I can't help him. And so now she's helping him, and that was just, it was so intense to read about. I can't read this book. I don't know what to do. I started this reading blog over there in my office chair at 6:14 p.m. My last check-in with you was at 9:55 p.m. Do you know what time it is now? It's almost midnight. I'm on page 52 because I just keep getting distracted. Because I'm so bored with this book. This is so bad. I hate this. I don't want to feel this way. I almost bought this book on Kindle just for a different reading experience, which makes no sense because I love reading physical books. Also reading on my Kindle, I love them both. And right now, the book actually costs more on Kindle than it does to buy the hardcover. So we're not doing that. Let's just sit right here and get to page 100 and see how we feel. I'm just sitting here cuddling with my cat. All I've read is her cleaning every day. She goes over there, after sunrise and leaves by sunset and is just cleaning this disgusting house that has not been cleaned in 100 years, it seems. And Arthur pays her cash every day. Every day he hands her an envelope with cash in it. And they didn't discuss her working on weekends, but she shows up on a Saturday because she needs the money and because she's under the impression that Arthur has no idea what day it is because he just always looks more and more tired every time he answers the door. And then with that money, she immediately mails it off to, some school that Jasper wants to go to, but she's paying it 2 years in advance. I have no idea. I don't know, because I don't really know what's going on in the book because I'm so bored. Confirmed, Jasper is 16. This is my 20% check-in. 2 things. The house is definitely sentient, which is fun because that's like the house that Nesta stays in A Court of Silver Flames. And like the book that I just read, Divine Rivals, Roman's house is sentient. So love that. Secondly, Arthur gives himself tattoos. He tattoos his own body. It says right here that he opened his desk drawer and removed a glass jar of ink, a bottle of rubbing alcohol, and a set of long steel needles. When he used to first do his tattoos, he did them with a ballpoint pen and a sewing needle, but he's more careful now. And then this paragraph, I don't understand. At first, tattooing was just another cold calculation, a logical piece of his plans. What plans, sir? But he's come to enjoy it. The pop of parting skin, the sting of ink, the release, the feeling that he is slowly erasing everything soft and vulnerable, forging himself into the weapon he needs. What weapon do you need to be that you need to be covered in tattoos? He is covered. This book got a little bit more interesting. Opal went to the library and went to the archive side and figured out some things about Starling House and about all of the former owners. We learned a little bit more about that author, Eleanor Starling, but I'm just going to tell y'all right now, this book is, I don't really know how historically accurate it is. I don't think that it is by any means, but I just need y'all to know that this book takes place in Kentucky. Kentucky is a very red state. So it's talking about the Confederate flags and the Second Amendment and how this city in Kentucky just sort of ignored the Emancipation Proclamation and the slaves that were owned by the people that lived at Starling House. And then once again, another person tried to commit suicide. She was wearing her wedding dress and had stones inside the pockets of her wedding dress and then was about to walk into the river, and then a slave stopped her and got her to change her mind. I don't know how I feel about this book. Opal is now being blackmailed without saying it. They said it, but they didn't say it, if that makes sense. She keeps getting followed while she walks to Starling House every day because she's the housekeeper. And it's this woman from this consulting group, and she just tells Opal, we're a research group. So we did our research. And she's saying things that she shouldn't know about Opal and her brother. And then that expensive school that's really far away that Jasper wants to go to, I think he would be able to go in the fall. I guess it's a high school, not a college like I thought, because I was barely paying attention in the beginning of this book. But whatever school it is, I guess he would start 11th grade there. And remember, Opal has been stealing from Starling House. She's stealing spoons and candlesticks and whatnot. And Jasper is putting them up on this antiques site on eBay and selling them, and this research group knows that. And the woman just looked at Opal and said, it would be such a shame if that school found out about it. I hate this. I don't like this book. Oh, and I didn't even tell y'all, there was a third person that potentially already unalived themselves, unless it truly was a car accident, but someone else has come out and said, no, they drove their car into the river. They did it themselves. How is Arthur getting food? He does not leave the house at all. He does not leave the property. He's barely outside. He is inside 24/7 essentially. How is he eating? How is he getting food? This is cute. Opal is really sick right now and she's been throwing up while trying to do her job as a housekeeper. And the house is sentient, remember? And right here it says, around noon, I get up because she's been laying on the couch. And she says, I puke in the kitchen sink and then I drag myself to the front hall with a bucket and a rag. But my mess has already been scrubbed away, leaving nothing but a damp spot and a faint lemony smell. The house cleaned up her mess. This is my 30% check-in, and I just want to say that this book is reminding me of the Book of Cold Cases by Simone St. James, because in both of these books, the house is sentient and not always in the best way. In this book, Beth couldn't leave the house, and I'm getting the vibe that in the Starling House, Arthur can't leave. I haven't told y'all yet that the motel where Opal and her brother live, so they live in Eden, Kentucky. This hotel is called the Garden of Eden, and she's talking to Arthur about it, and she's talking about Bev, and he says, oh, who's Bev? And she says, oh, the owner of my motel. And he says, your motel? And she just says, yeah, I live at the Garden of Eden. You're familiar with rent, right? The thing you have to pay if you don't inherit a haunted mansion. There is so much back history on this town, Eden, Kentucky, and that power grid, power plant company that the Graveleys own. And the Graveleys are part of the Starlings. I don't even understand, but there's so much about that. I made it past page 100, by the way. I'm on page 104, and right here, Opal is thinking, I think about the seismic boom of the turbine exploding at the power plant. I think about the fly ash pond leaking slowly into the river, which is the reason why the health department says it's only safe to eat catfish once a year. I think about the greasy black dust that falls sometimes on close, windless days, and about Jasper's asthma attacks getting closer and closer together. Are there... I don't even know what to say right now. It's now after 2 a.m, and I just don't know if I'm getting chemistry lessons and historical lessons from this book. There's definitely no dark, fantastical horror. The only bit of magical realism we have is that the house is sentient. Arthur and Opal are still not whatever they're going to eventually be. What is the point of this book? Opal talks so much smack about Arthur to us, to the reader, and even right here, she walked into the backyard. I think it was the backyard. She saw him doing something, and the tension has just been weird between them. It was something with gravestones. And right here, she just says, he remains locked in the attic all day, like the mad wife in a gothic novel. This is my 40% check-in. I thought Arthur and Opal were having a moment, and then, I don't know, it became hostile. And then once again, he told her to run. Get out of this house, get away from here, run and never look back. I don't know what's going on. Does she still work there? Is she still his housekeeper? She's still being blackmailed. Those people even came to Jasper's school. Right here, Arthur Starling almost murdered me, and then almost kissed me, and then tossed me aside like used gum. And I'm not sure which of those things upsets me more. I have no idea what is happening in this book. There was a beast, B is capitalized, B-E-A-S-T, that appeared, and Opal had run like Arthur told her to, but then she came back, and he was bleeding, and he has this sword. I'm sorry, why do you have a sword? SWORD. And then they were fighting this beast, and then Arthur was bleeding. It's like he was dying. And then he kissed Opal, and then we got another illustration. What? Oh, and also, they were both bleeding, and then they locked hands like they were becoming blood brother and blood sister. I don't know, that was so weird. And now that all that chaos is over, whatever it was that happened outside, she's now cleaning him up. Opal is helping because Arthur is just beat up. I'm telling you, it's like he was dying. And he keeps calling her Miss Opal. And she says, if you call me that again, I will do you a harm. And he says, you wouldn't hurt an injured man. And she says, I would change your ringtone to Kid Rock and call you every day at dawn for a decade, my hand to God. And he says, I would simply turn off my phone. This is my 50% check-in. I don't know what's going on in this book. Arthur calls himself the warden. I guess if you're living in that house, you're the warden of the house. And so many of the Starlings have lived in that house, and they all have just died, been murdered, committed suicide. So many things have happened to all of his family members. And then something happened to Arthur's parents. And then Arthur became the warden of the house, but he swears he's going to be the last warden at that house. But Opal is thinking, well, if you die, maybe I'll be the warden because I keep dreaming about Starling House. She's still having dreams about this house. She's there every day. She works there, but she's still dreaming about it every night when she goes home. And they're having this conversation and talking about beasts and evil things and his sword, and I don't know what's going on with this book. This is definitely fantasy, not so much magical realism anymore, but I don't know. Hello vlog. It is the next evening. These night shifts that my husband is doing right now, they're a lot. We end up staying up all night. I mean, he has to. He's at work, and then I stay up all night because I want us to go to bed together. I mean, he just got back from deployment, and then we sleep all day while the sun is out, and now, hello, welcome to nighttime again. It's about 7:15 p.m. I have not read any more of the book today, considering I just woke up a few hours ago, but I left off on page 157 last night, or early this morning. I believe my last clip was at 3:50 a.m. It took me way too long to read 157 pages yesterday. I started around, I think 6:14 p.m. is the timestamp of the very first clip, and then 3:50 a.m. is the timestamp of my last one. So what is that, around 10 hours? Because I kept stopping because this book is just, I don't know if this book is for me, but let's just sit right here and see what we can get through tonight. How does this ambiance look? I turned off the dome light. I do have these two lamps on, and I never know if this lamp is too much. If I have it pointed at me, I feel as if I'm in an interrogation room. If I turn it down, is that better? I do have to say, for how deep south and racist this book has been, if you think this is a spoiler, please just skip ahead 20 or so seconds. This is about the sexuality of a character. So going in 3, 2, 1. Arthur has been with both women and men. He's telling that to Opal right now because Opal sort of insinuated to him that he was a virgin because he stays locked in this haunted mansion all day, every day, and it's been years. But then he comes out and tells her, I did date. I went away at school. I went away for 2 years. And she says, oh yeah, well, who were you with? And he names this girl named Victoria, and then he adds, and Luke. Okay. I love the owner of this motel where Opal and Jasper live. She is so much. Anytime Opal and Jasper are being themselves, essentially. Bev will turn off the internet and they will have to go and beg to get it turned back on, and she can turn it off to each room. So when she turns it off, everyone else at the motel is fine. It's just Opal and Jasper. Well, right now, Opal is just mentally going through some things. She hasn't left that room in 3 days, and Bev is banging on the door saying, "Hey kid, are you dead in there?" And then Opal still doesn't answer, and Bev says, "I turned the internet off 2 hours ago. What's going on?" I miss going to the library. We have a library on main base. I should go check that out. Right here, Opal interrupts Bev and says, "Hey, did my library holds come in?" And Bev looks at her and says, "If you want your smut, you'll have to take your ASS over to the library just like everybody else." The one time I like this author's writing, Jasper is trying to wake Opal up and she's just not moving, and then he's asking, why her ribs are the color that they are. And then it says right here, he keeps at it for a while, but eventually he gives up and leaves me to decompose in peace. I really like Opal and Bev's dynamic. They fight a lot, but Bev is basically the parent that Opal never had. And right here, Bev says, "Do you remember getting yourself stung by a wasp? One of those nasty red ones? What were you, 7 years old?" And Opal says, "I was 6. And Bev says, "But you didn't cry. You just sat there biting your own lip, waiting it out. It didn't even occur to you to ask for help." And Opal says, "I was an independent kid." And Bev says, "You were a stupid kid, and now you're a stupid woman." Speaking of wasps, as I stare up at the nest, I slept in today, obviously, because my husband didn't get home until, 8 a.m., 9 a.m., and I did not go to the housing office to talk to them, but I have plans with my girlfriends tomorrow. I have to go to bed at a very decent hour tonight, maybe 10 p.m., 11 p.m., we shall see. But after we meet up tomorrow for our little coffee date with the 3 or 4 of us, I am gonna stop by the office and talk to them about these murder hornets, tracker jackers. This is my 60% check-in. Jasper has done something that I'm hoping doesn't get him killed or get Opal killed, but I'm also intrigued about what is going to happen now. Thank you, 7-Eleven, for providing me with some meat on a stick and some fried rice. I already ate half of this earlier today, a few hours ago when I woke up. Look who has decided to join me. Welcome back to the vlog, Audi. I hate Elizabeth Bain. She is such a villainous character. I can't stand the blackmailing. She has found Opal once again, even though Opal doesn't even work for Starling House anymore, and Opal will not help her. And Bain just looks at her and says, "It's a shame. I really thought you loved your brother." She is gonna prevent Jasper from going to this prestigious high school and getting out of this town, Eden, Kentucky. I hate her. I'm sorry. This is getting ridiculous. This is becoming like one of those silly, quirky, cozy mysteries that I love reading. This is turning into that. And the characters are just very cartoony, especially that Elizabeth Bain person and the constable. And something has happened. Of course, someone else is getting blamed for it. This would not happen. And I know in books you should suspend what you know, suspend your belief, but this is ridiculous. The constable is so stupid. And then Bev appears, and I love her so much. And she's pointing at him in the chest and in the face, and she calls him a mall cop cowboy. This is my 80% mark. Made it to 80%. And all I have to say is I'm really starting to hate this book. And I don't like saying that. I don't like saying I hate books. Hate is such a strong word, but this has gotten so ridiculous, so out of control. It makes no sense. And again, I know I need to suspend my belief, but it's so dumb. This just would not happen. 2 things to say. One of them, I should have said it a few check-ins ago, but there is a sapphic relationship in this book. Again, for this being such a deep red Republican turning a blind eye to the Emancipation Proclamation. I mean, I'm pretty blown away by some of the sexual choices of these characters. And secondly, this is so dumb, but it just keeps making me giggle. Bev calls Opal meathead. That is her term of endearment, I guess. And I mean, every time they're getting into it is when she says it, but it just comes out just so funny. She'll just look at Opal and say, "Are we done here, meathead? What's going on, meathead?" And then even right now, she's saying, "Are you okay, meathead?" Look at that brat. Look at him trying to get all the wasps. If anyone was wondering about smut between Arthur and Opal, on page 240, there's no smut. Let me just say that. I mean, it happens so quickly. It just says, "There's no more hesitating" after that. And then in the next paragraph, "I let him hold me afterward." So there you go. This is my 80% check-in. We've made it to 80%. I don't really have anything to say. I mean, secrets have come out. We've learned more. I've rolled my eyes at everything. I mean, a lot of this I had already figured out. This is a predictable book. I have never been so happy to finish a book in my life. Y'all, I did not like this book. Wow. And I know I recently read, what was it? This psychological torture book on Kindle. And I also finished that book in 2 days and I rated it 2 stars. But I read that book so fast. I still, as much as I hated it, I needed to know what was happening. This book, no desire. I just did not care. The ending was so weird too. The ending was very weird. I'm giving this book 2 stars. I mean, if I were to rate it online, Amazon, Goodreads, whatever, I would give it 3. I never give anybody under 3 stars, actually, on Kindle or wherever, any rating site. But in my mind, in my heart, this is 2 stars. I didn't like the writing. I didn't vibe with it. I mean, the foreshadowing was there. I couldn't even talk about the synopsis of this book because I just did not understand it. The writing, it's just so descriptive and flowery and purple. That is actually a true description of writing. The writing is purple. Look that up. It didn't work for me. A lot of people love this book though. A lot of people. So please don't let my review dissuade you. Please check it out for yourself because a lot of people swear by this book. I did not like it. And I know with Opal's a very unlikable main character, which is fine. I liked her. I mean, yeah, she's terrible and she lies a lot. She lies to you, the reader, because then in the footnotes you get the truth or she'll just lie to you and then you find out later in the book that she lied because you didn't know. I mean, I liked her. I liked Opal. I liked Jasper. Arthur is our brooding love interest, the warden of Starling House. It's fine. I will say, because I don't believe I talked about this at all in the vlog, the author has to let you know on every other page how unattractive Opal is, how crooked her teeth are, and how ugly Arthur is. I tried to Google it. I think she uses the word ugly to describe Arthur 24 times. 24. So if that's gonna annoy you, that is the whole book. The whole book, it is just talking about how unattractive and ugly these 2 main characters are. But then weirdly, the Illumicrate boxes, the Owlcrate boxes, all the fanfic, everything with these special editions on these books, and then all of the art that has come out shows them being attractive. So that makes no sense to me. But I'm just gonna let you go here. I didn't like this book. Oh, one more thing. That horrible villainous character, Elizabeth Bain. What happened to her? She was just a plot device to keep the story going. Where did she go at the end? She was there. It's as if she was there for personal reasons and not just for her corporate job and for money. It was very strange how into this she was with her blackmailing and then being there, and then she was no longer there. What happened to her? She was just there to be a villain. I don't know. Some of this, I have already said it. It was very cartoony. I just need to go. But 2 stars. 2 stars for this book, but give it a shot. I will see you on my next vlog. Bye.